Hello everyone, today we'll be checking out the Blitz 2 TMR edition. It's been a while since I reviewed the last BigBig Won controller, and this seems to be a solid update from the first Blitz controller. Let's start with the unboxing and checking what you get in the box. The analog sticks on the Blitz 2 controller have a metal shaft and anti-friction rings. And the buttons are mechanical with a good travel distance and won't sink too flat with the shell. The grip is rubberized, and the triggers are digital only. You have two shortcuts on the top and two back buttons. And it still have the connections for the charging dock. All of the shortcuts for the extra functions are here too. The Dpad has mechanical switches too, and there's a pivot in the center preventing you from hitting all four directions. Compared to the Blitz one, it is nearly the same controller. But there is a few differences. The back buttons are slightly taller. And the trigger buttons have been modified to be less pointy and more comfortable. On the Blitz 1, the face buttons had a pretty short travel distance. But now it is much higher on the Blitz 2. Also, the button layout has been changed to the Xbox layout. On the Blitz 1, the sticks were entirely made of plastic. Now they're made of metal. And not only that, but the sticks are now removable. The Dpad is also removable. You can swap it to the disc-shaped Dpad. There's one thing about the face buttons. These buttons have a glossy finish with a texture on the side. This texture rubs against the controller shell when you press these buttons, and you can feel the plastics rubbing together. This wouldn't happen if the controller had a smooth finish at least on the side of the buttons. On the Blitz one, the shutter buttons were harder to press closer to the pivot. But now the Blitz 2 has a new construction where the pivots of each shutter button are located on the opposite side. This makes the button very easy to press in any region. And the change is very noticeable when you compare the two. Testing on the Nintendo Switch, the Blitz 2 cannot wake up the console, which is a downgrade because the Blitz 1 could do it. Besides that, it still works pretty well and it has motion controls. I still have the charging dock for the Blitz 1. And while it still works perfectly with the first controller, the Blitz 2 is not compatible. Which again is another letdown. Well, it could still be charging, but the LEDs are not responding, and there's no visual confirmation. Another huge wasted opportunity here is with the pairing modes. The buttons are colored, but they do not correspond to the pairing modes of the controller. Pressing the red B button with the home button enables the Xbox pairing mode with the green lights. Pressing the green button enables the Switch pairing mode in the red color. And finally, pressing the yellow button turns the PlayStation mode on with the blue color. And there is an issue with the PlayStation mode where I couldn't connect it with any other device. I can enable pairing, but it's never detected. The Switch mode is detected as a Pro controller, and the Xbox is detected as an Xbox controller. The only way to use the PlayStation mode is with the dongle. It shows up as a wireless controller, but it works with the PlayStation Remote Play, so it is compatible. The analog sticks are pretty great. There's no cardinal snapping, no dead zone in the center, and the circularity is nearly perfect. And the resolution of the sticks is pretty good too, with around 100 steps. Testing the D-pad, you cannot hit the diagonals by pressing only on one direction, but if you position your thumb slightly higher, you can activate them. And the diagonals are pretty consistent in all four directions. As I mentioned before, the triggers are digital only. And the BigBig Won controllers have the best customization options ever. It is super easy to customize anything you want with the shortcut buttons below. And you can even combine the remap button with the turbo button to create an extra exclusive turbo button, and that works independent to the button that you remap. There's also a new smartphone app called Mojon. Apparently BigBig Won is trying to change names, which is a good idea. On the app, you can adjust the analog stick's dead zones and a lot of other options. This option lets you change the position of the stick center in real time. And this one lets you enable a button press when you move the stick to a certain direction. This option should enable a square range of the sticks. But the difference is minimal, and it's not square at all. You can configure a simulated gyro for any of the sticks, remap any button, and change the vibration settings. You can also edit macros here. Here you can set the resolution of the stick, change the polling rate, swap the analog sticks and Dpad, and calibrate the sticks. And the PC app has the same options of the smartphone app. The only difference is that you can only update the controller through the PC app. Speaking about the latency, it has a pretty low latency, only 4.8 milliseconds. Moving to the teardown, there are 6 screws on the back and 2 hidden screws under the sticker. On the back shell, the construction is pretty good. And the battery has 1000 milliamps. All of the switches for this controller are mouse switches. The rumble motor is easy to disconnect if you want to remove some of the weight. And here's the other side of the board. The analog sticks is from a different brand that I have never seen before. The brand is Hall Pie. And the pivots of the triggers is made of plastic, but this is not a problem on this controller because the springs is not attached to the pivot itself. This way there's no way that the metal spring will cut through the pivot as we've seen on other controllers. Here's a look at the Dpad. And the face buttons have a fixed layout that cannot be changed. Finally, here's the new construction for the shoulder buttons. On my final thoughts, the Blitz 2 controller is pretty good. Considering the input lag, Dpad and analog sticks, the performance is pretty good. The usability is great too. It's very easy to remap buttons, activate turbo or record macros. The smartphone and PC apps are very solid too. On the cons, the triggers are not analog triggers, which is not great if you like racing games or plan to use this controller with emulators. The PlayStation mode only works with a dongle, which is a bit of a letdown. And finally, the face buttons feels a bit rough. Again, this is not a big problem, but it doesn't feel premium, especially when compared to its competitors. And that's it for today's video. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.